Chilling police cam footage, an alarming impersonation, and dark confessions are all among the disturbing details revealed about Brian Laundrie in the wake of the disappearance and death of Gabby Petito. The case of Brian Laundrie and his fiancée Gabby Petito captivated and horrified the nation when their deadly van life vacation became headline news in the summer of 2021. The couple shared ample details of their seemingly happy relationship and travels online, but then their trip of a lifetime turned into a horrifying case that rocked the nation. When Laundrie returned to his parents' home in September, Petito was nowhere to be seen. After her family filed a police report, Laundrie himself then went missing. On September 19th, Petito's remains were discovered in Wyoming's Bridger-Teton National Forest, while Laundrie's were later found submerged in a South Florida preserve on October 20th. On August 12, 2021, police officers in Moab, Utah responded to a domestic incident between Petito and Laundrie. The police reports and video footage of the incident offered an eerie insight into their relationship. An eyewitness told the 911 operator that a man, Laundrie, slapped a woman, Petito, twice as they stood on the sidewalk before driving away. The police caught up to the vehicle and found Petito in tears. She told the officer that she was struggling with her obsessive-compulsive disorder and that she had panicked when Laundrie wouldn't let her back into the van.
You get to tell me to shut up.
The officer convinced the couple to spend the night apart, cooling off. Though their social media would go on to paint a picture of an ideal vacation, they continued to argue violently, with another incident that involved Laundrie yelling at staff in a Wyoming restaurant on August 27th, and Petito apologizing to everyone in tears. When Petito's remains were discovered in September 2021, Laundrie was still missing. Observers speculated wildly about whether he was alive or dead and the degree to which he was responsible for Petito's disappearance. While trying to locate Laundrie, the FBI released a statement confirming that they had uncovered a notebook alongside Petito's remains. It was soon reported that the notebook contained entries from Laundrie concerning the events that had transpired between him and his fiancée, which were later published by the Laundrie family's attorney. In one entry, Laundrie described a disturbing scene in which Petito ended up freezing and injured in a creek, with a wound on her forehead and a possible concussion. He claimed that he carried her but couldn't make it back to their van. Instead, he built a fire and attempted to warm her up with his body heat as she drifted in and out of consciousness as a result of what he seemed to believe was hypothermia. The biggest bombshell revelation in Brian Laundrie's notebook was undoubtedly his confession, as he wrote, "I ended her life." However, Laundrie also claimed that the killing wasn't prompted by anger, nor did it take place in a heated argument. Instead, he stated that he chose to end Petito's life due to the severity of her injuries, despite offering only a vague outline about how she became injured in the first place. As he put it, "I thought it was merciful, that it is what she wanted, but I see now all the mistakes I made. I panicked, I was in shock. But from the moment I decided, took away her pain, I knew I couldn't go on without her." Laundrie also wrote that after killing Petito, he returned home to spend some final time with his family before leaving to end his own life. As he detailed, "I've killed myself by this creek in the hopes that animals may tear me apart, that it may make some of her family happy. Please pick up all of my things. Gabby hated people who litter."
The journal reveals a lot about what Brian Laundrie's intent was.
Despite Laundrie's confession, experts were skeptical at his attempts to portray the slain as merciful. After the discovery of Gabby Petito's remains, the Teton County Coroner's Office concluded that she died of multiple blunt force head injuries and manual strangulation, and that she'd been killed weeks before her body was discovered. It was also now known that Brian Laundrie returned to his parents' home for about 2 weeks before abruptly disappearing. It was around this time that he took disturbing steps to convince the world his fiancée was still alive. As the FBI later revealed, he remained in possession of Petito's cell phone after her death and sent multiple text messages to himself and to Petito's family members. In one of those messages, he pretended to be Petito writing to her mother, Nicole Schmidt. "Can you help Stan? I just keep getting his voicemails and missed calls." The message alarmed Schmidt, as Petito never called her grandfather Stan by his first name. One final document that has made headlines in the years since Petito's disappearance was a letter written by Laundrie's mother, Roberta, to her son. It was recovered from his backpack when his remains were discovered in October 2021, and included several alarming references to murder. The letter, which is marked "Burn After Reading," includes Roberta telling her son that she would be willing to bring a shovel to help him bury a body, or bake a cake containing a shiv if he ever wound up in prison. Roberta has claimed that it was written before Petito and Laundrie set off on their ill-fated trip, and that the dark imagery was purely an attempt to convey the unconditional nature of her love for her son. But Gabby Petito's family sees things a little differently. In fact, they filed a lawsuit against the Laundries for emotional distress. They claimed that his parents were aware of Petito's death upon Brian's return home, but did nothing to raise any alarms. They contend that the letter contains direct references to the killing, and it stood to become a key piece of evidence in a civil trial between the two families. Ultimately, though, in February 2024, Petito's parents and the Laundries reached a settlement in which the case would no longer move forward.